Alright, so this is my first time ever doing this. I have no idea if anything's set up right, but I guess we'll find out. So, hey, welcome. My name is Justin Mendez, and we're going to do a little bit of vibe coding on my open source project called VibeSafe. Today we are going to be focused on a feature to help with slopsquatting is the name of it. That's the name of the malicious activities. Basically, what happens is when people are vibe coding using LLMs for code generation, or agents here, like in Cursor that I have pulled up, the AI will hallucinate and make up fictitious package names and try to download them. And so hackers will go ahead and make fictitious package names that are close to real packages, or misspellings by like one single letter off, or just different variants that are close enough to just by chance catch either an LLM or a fat finger of, like, because I've definitely done that before, of where I misspelled something and tried to download it, and it downloaded a package even though it was obviously misspelled, and it kind of weirded me out. So likely I actually have malware on my computer, just have no idea. But so at my AI meetup that I co-host here in Folsom, California, actually a new buddy of mine that I just met, I'm about to have lunch with him tomorrow, named Charles Kozad, brought up the term slopsquatting. And so I had to do some research and figure out what it was, and this is where I learned about it. So here, let me show you guys some research that I found before we get into this process. So let's see, let me open these up. So you can see here in these studies, which shout out to these guys, University of Texas San Antonio, University of Oklahoma, Virginia Tech. These guys did a study where they were seeing how often large language models would hallucinate. Let me fix this for a second. There we go. Got it. All right. So they did a study on how often large language would hallucinate package names. And so they ran a study of 576,000 code samples in two different programming languages. So they did JavaScript and Python. They found that in like top level GPT 4.0, like close to soda level models, it was about a 5.2% rate that they hallucinated the package names. But other models, DeepSeek, other open source models, Llama, stuff like that, was at a rate of 21.7%. So out of their full study, they had a staggering 205,000 unique examples of hallucinating package names. So it's really showing that it's prevalent. And as you dig through this study, which I'll throw a link of this to the YouTube video if you guys want to check it out, read it yourselves, is that with AI coding becoming like way more prevalent, like it says right here, recent study indicates that up to 97% of developers are using generative AI to some degree, and that approximately 30% of code written in today's world is AI generated. So this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem, and even as models get better, hallucination is always going to be an issue. And I think as models get better, people are going to be checking their code less and less and just running it in YOLO mode, and there's more chance for these kind of attacks to come and happen. So jumping into another study here, importing phantoms, measuring LLM package hallucination vulnerabilities. So this is another study done by this group of people: Arjun, Eric, Leon, and Jeffrey. Shout out to you guys for putting this together. And we're going to just kind of jump down here. They basically they checked out a bunch of different models and seeing how much they hallucinated or had issues with their code. And so when we jump down here to the results section, we're going to 6, there we go. So they had a wide variance between, like, state-of-the-art models and some of the open source models, from 0.22% hallucination to up to 46% hallucination. So, and it showed that JavaScript performed the best, roughly, on the least amount of hallucinations, and then Python was nearly double that, and Rust was a little less than Python. So multiple studies here, multiple smart people saying like this is a real issue, and I think hackers are starting to really catch on to it. So this is the project that I'm building, open source. It's called VibeSafe. The whole thing here is that it's an npm package that scans your entire code base before you ship it to GitHub to make sure that you don't have any of the common security vulnerabilities that even just a regular dev would accidentally put in or forget about in their code base, let alone when you have an AI hallucinating or just like trying to focus on one specific aspect and doesn't come back and think, what are the security concerns here in the application that I'm building. So trying to alleviate that here by just simply giving a nice package that comes through, scans through your entire code base and lets you know of any kind of security issues that you might need to be working on. So this is things like insecure HTTP methods, hard-coded secrets inside your code. Luckily with OpenAI, they're watching on GitHub. So if you do end up committing a OpenAI key, that normally they get shut down or stopped, but it's a real risk for other services. And so we already have one layer of scanning with OSV and pulling from the API there to see if a package has been listed with a known vulnerability. But now we're going to go ahead and roll out this new feature 1.3 for VibeSafe so that it can intercept the hallucination from your coding AI before it even downloads the package to try and stop any damage from happening. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and I'll give you guys a little kind of sneak preview of how I use Cursor and how I've been vibe coding and building projects. So the first thing I'll do is I'll start talking with ChatGPT about either my feature or my entire app idea and get a good understanding in that chat thread. And then I'll use the deep research feature to have ChatGPT go ahead and really build out a very detailed PRD document like you see here. And aside from just being a PRD document, I also ask it for atomic steps to break the entire feature or the entire app into logical steps of how a developer would go at them, and break it down even further into atomic steps. And so I'll go ahead and copy this in as a markdown file, and you can see here that I even use brackets so that when I have the AI agent inside a Cursor actually coming through and reading this and working through it, it's able to come back after each step that it completes. It comes back to the markdown file and marks its progress, and it kind of helps it stay on track. Another big 10x increase on accuracy for Cursor and its agent is taking advantage of Cursor rules. And so I have this one set up in a .cursor folder, and then another rules folder within that .cursor, and then this is basic-rules.mdc. And it gives me, when I use that specific structure, it gives me these options of whether I get to have this rule always applied to every single chat that runs, or if I want to just add it as a comment. And so I'll have that in there, and then I will come into the chat and I will reference my MD document, and I'll ask Cursor to please review the MD doc for our new feature. And so I've noticed with Cursor that if I give it multiple files per prompt, that it sometimes will just choose one of the files to read and really go through. Sometimes it's good and it'll read through all of them, but I'll give this time for it to really focus on this product requirement doc and get it in its head of what it needs to do. And the model that I'm a big fan of using here is the Gemini 2.5 Pro. And not the max model that's 5 cents per run, but the experimental O325 model, which is cheaper, because that larger million token context window makes it where I can have really meaningful markdown files like this, as well as being able to feed actual code files into it, and it doesn't lose that context. And so it makes it where I have a much higher accuracy rate, and I don't have to go through refactoring and freaking out all the time. Okay. So it's gone through and it says this is great markdown file, all that kind of stuff. Let's see. So let's go through and let's actually look at our MD file and what ChatGPT told us we were going to do. So phase 1 of this MVP right here is we're going to create a VibeSafe install command, which will basically be able to catch any npm install command that's going to happen and first scan through the npm registry to see if it's got low stars, if it has low downloads, if it's been recently created, to just throw a flag and ask the user to confirm that they want to download that package. I think that's a quick and easy way, and then using that cursor rules file like that, you could easily just add that as a rule to always use VibeSafe install instead of npm install, and then that way you have that extra check that you don't have to really worry. It'll pause it and save you and before the model tries to run an npm install that you don't know or don't understand. Yeah, so based off of package age, download count, whether they have a README present, they have a license field, and then repository URL. So it'll throw flags for any of those things here in the first version of the app. So now that the agent has context of what we're going to build, now I'm going to ask it to go ahead and review my project. Please look at my source folder and specifically my index.ts. I think so. And so, to give a little bit more background on me while this works through this, is like, I've been a hobby coder. It's not like I'm some major wizard at coding. This has just been a project that I've been wanting to build because I was consuming some content on YouTube, and I heard this story of a guy that had made a vibe-coded app and then posted it on X, and then some hacker came and just wrecked his app. And I didn't really like that. I felt like that was like somebody coming up on the beach when you built a sandcastle and came and kicked your sandcastle. So it gave me kind of the inspiration to come and build this developer tool, especially with vibe coding becoming so prevalent. It's opening the gates for so many people that have never touched code before to actually build applications. And so I think there's a major need for building these kind of tools that are going to help keep LLMs like creating better code and just removing that burden of knowledge or that requirement, that kind of ignorance debt that comes with just coming to coding for the first time. Because we're not all security devs. I'm definitely not. And I'm learning as I go here. Yeah, so I'm going to come back to this. So I asked it to scan my package, or my whole folder, and especially my source folder. There's an index.ts, scanners. This is my entry point. This is where my command's at. So at this point, what I'll do as just a best practice, I'll go ahead and ask the AI, now that you know the package, or now that you know the project, and you know what we're going to build, are there any additional steps that you want to add to the PRD to help us keep track and make this modular and easy to implement?
some kind of free music going on here. You guys can hear my blown out speaker here. I might go too crazy with this, just a little bit. Okay. You can see the changes that are happening here. So now Gemini 2.5 is coming through, creating the program command for install, and then creating to-dos here commented in so that it can come through and remember its progress as it goes. Okay, so our next step here is going to be creating the npm registry client so that it can go ahead and pull from that API. And start pulling that information that we can run logic on to decide whether we want to flag and prompt the user to confirm whether they want to actually download the package or not. Okay. I'm kind of wondering, this vertical, this is going to go. Interesting, we're going to add optional flags as well. Okay. So let's jump over to our next code. So this is a fresh, brand new file. String version type, create a modify version, repository type, whatever. Okay. It's making it where it's a catch-all type can catch anything it wants. Interesting that it's putting all those comments in here. Okay, the download counts is going to be a separate function. Okay, and its justification here is that it's going to use node fetch because that is going to be able to work across any version of Node.js. Okay. Our next step is now to update our source index file.
And this is kind of the beauty thing of really taking the time to set up good rules inside of Cursor, is it makes it where you can do a lot less debugging or controlling. So kind of to review these rules that I have set up here, I always ask it to scan full files before making any changes so they can fully understand really the weight of what it's doing. To always stay within scope, like, because I've definitely had so many issues before of running into it trying to like run away with some kind of random feature or extra like complicated thing that it didn't actually ask for. And so I'll also make sure to tell it like only edit the part of the file that you need to. Do not overwrite files. And so that's definitely like one of the things that it'll just do is every single time it'll try to rewrite the entire file, and that's how I get so many bugs and so many inaccuracies. So by making it only rewrite what needs to be rewritten on a line by line basis, it has increased my accuracy probably by 5x.
Okay, let's look at the progress so far. The import for npm package metadata, heuristics warning interface, and the check package age function is there. Okay, so now it's going to take these new files that it put in here. These new things, it's starting to import them into our main index file for this package. And then way down here, now we have an actual function. And we're using chalk in here to make things prettier. You can see here, this is our heuristics check. Now it's going to work through and do our fetch package downloads function.
And so this is the beauty of really having GPT 4.0, or I used to really like using 0.3 mini high before they retired it, to create these super detailed PRD documents with every single step laid out, because it really helps keep the AI agent on track. And another good thing I'll do here, like it's been staying on track, it's been following all the things, but I want to make sure that I also set it so that it is updating its progress in that README file, and kind of having that where it has to come back, read through the README, choose where it's going to make that edit for adding the X in the brackets, also refreshes the context of the steps that it's completed and where it should be doing next. So now, even though it's asking me if I want to add that check download volume function to the heuristics checks TypeScript file, I'm going to ask it first, can you please first update your progress and at 1.3 MD. So we know where we are. We just need to add the steps you've completed. Cool, so now it's gone through and kind of thought about what it's completed so far. And so something else that I've noticed in Cursor, which maybe you guys already knew this, but making sure that I actually use that @ symbol and reference the full file, because if I let cursor just use its tools to kind of scan through and look at a file, it'll only give it the first like 100, 150, maybe 200 lines of a file. So if you want to give it the full file context, you need to actually pass it in the chat, and that will give it the full context to it.
Interesting. Creating the check download volume function. Yes, please. Just gonna work on downloading that.
So the flag is going to throw if we have less than 50 downloads in the past month, that this is a package that is not, it's not very desirable, or it's not often used. And so we can definitely play with this and adjust this as you guys think fit. If you guys want to come scan through my vibe coded code, we got the GitHub up there. I mean, like, it's full open source. Feel free to roast the code if you have a better way to do what I'm doing. Because like I said, I'm definitely not a coding wizard. If anything, I'm more of like a coding hobbit at this point. Cool. So this keeps things pretty simple. Lets it run through, and then really the big part is just working on decoding issues. And things where I find the most common issues vibe coding is that the AI agent will assume that it has up-to-date context on specific dependencies, or third-party services. So it'll definitely think of like an old version of LangChain, or it'll think of an old version of ShadCN, and there's been breaking changes since then. First time chat. Oh, look at that. It's the first chat I've ever gotten, and it's somebody advertising for some other shit. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know how to do anything on here, so let's shield mode. Interesting. I don't know what shield mode does. This is one. Let's keep going here. Cool. Now the thing to think about here is, how am I going to test this out? Maybe we'll create a new package for npm and push that. Yeah, that's a good idea. I need something that's going to be able to catch and like trigger all of these flags. Common placeholders. Cool. Let's go through and look at what it's been doing. Okay, so it's created some new functions within our registry client.
So now it should be where if a package has a missing empty or a placeholder README, that it should throw a flag and say there's no README attached to that package, and give you the option. You can either put a Y or an N to choose to download that package. Okay, so now we're going to create a license check. Maybe this one might be a little too easy to throw a flag. Interesting. So when we go to debug and we play with this, that might be something that I'd be interested in. 'Cause if we look in Node Package Manager, let's see, printer. So let's try and pick that up. So if we go to VibeSafe, let's see if I have a license file in here. LC license. Yeah, so in my README I have a clear license folder here, or like license section that says, hey, this has an MIT license. So I'm wondering if I should run this on my own package, but that might throw its own error. So yeah, when the time comes we'll get to that, but we're 33 minutes in, and if we go look at our file, we're still in phase 1, but we are about to be done with phase 1. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more steps until we get to testing and validation. Yeah, and so we will end up publishing a dummy package. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pop open a new cursor window and just run that. This new test is going to be VibeSafe test package. Yeah, that open. What's going on? Let's make sure we keep moving here. Yeah. Oh, there's a linter error. Okay, looks like it fixed its error. Nope. Alright, so let's go find this linter error and see if we can So sometimes I can get away with just like, let's pause for a second and just think, coding. Here is the error message. Let's get the full thing. Why are we getting this specific type error? So this is a typed error in our specific interfaces that we had previously made. So we need to modify the actual interface for repository and make sure that we got it there. Okay, so so basically we just need to reaffirm to TypeScript that, hey, this is going to be a string. And look like that. Fix the error. It's generally, I find that when I tell the AI to not worry about coding at all, just think about logically, like, what caused the error or what could be the reason, what other files might be involved. Generally, it'll be able to really pull itself out and think about it, and probably about 8 out of 10 times it figures its own issues out. And the times that it doesn't, one of my big rules in here, in my cursor rules, is here for debugging methodically. So if it runs into an error that it just can't figure out, I'll tell it right here to stop and list like 5 to 8 different possible reasons of why it's not working or why there's an error showing, and then to narrow that down to its top 1 or 2 that it thinks are most logical in this case, and then to add bugging to confirm those. And that has been like really the thing that's kind of been able to pull the bird's nest apart and just fix anything. And then if that doesn't work, you have to think about, okay, so what packages are being used, what third-party code is being used, because that means that cursor is just, it's using outdated information and there's been some sort of change, there's been some sort of thing since it's ingested the documents of that specific package or third-party code. So, like I kind of touched on earlier, definitely cursor will kind of default to thinking it already knows instead of being like, maybe I should go look at the documentation for this first. So force-feeding documentation is also a pretty good best practice. And after all checks, we'll have a single block of logic deciding the aggregated message. over my other picture. I need help creating a dummy picture again. And name it VibeSafe dummy test. Go to the next step here. Cool, so we're gonna add flags here, so if you just wanna ignore it and not answer every time you can. Cool. The first person doing it, okay. Let's proceed. Again, this one. Done.
Cool, so our dummy package is been deployed. So if there's a normal install, if the installation is ported due to user denial or error, exit with a non-zero exit code so the CI or scripts can detect the failure. If install succeed, exit with code 0. We've actually addressed a couple parts of this already. Inherits this with the spawn options, exit client prompt, set to 1 if npm install fails, set the npm exit code, and critical error occurs during VibeSafe checks performed. Set to 1, okay, main things, so output exit codes is now marked complete. Alright, so we got v1 done. Now implement the core functional MVP for VibeSafe install as outlined in phase 1. Okay. Okay. We have a dummy package to test with called VibeSafe dummy. Nope, VibeSafe test package. And I like to have the agent actually run it. And then it's asking me questions about this dummy package. It was made 5 minutes ago. Really, it was like 2 minutes ago. Has no downloads, no readme or license. No repository URL. Alright, let's go ahead and double check that. Go ahead. Let's jump in here and we're gonna go back to npm JS. We're gonna do VibeSafe dummy package. Okay, and there's no git attached to it. Cool. Yeah, so no git, no nothing. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's demo this. Let's see. So if we hit VibeSafe install VibeSafe test package. Oh, I think we need to build the project first. Okay, so first let's go ahead and just do npm run build.
that not the name of the package? We were just looking at it. Oh, it's VibeSafe dummy test. Wow, silly me. Alright, so that's fine. So if we do VibeSafe, but at least we know our chalk is working, right, for those error codes. Critical error. Okay. So if we do VibeSafe install VibeSafe dummy test. Cool. So it's kind of interesting that it's initializing that client every single time. So I'm just going to highlight this and comment it over. Say, here is my runs. Interesting that the OpenAI client initializes every time. Let's stop that. So, what do we think? Cool, so it calls it out, says potential issues. It was published and the date it was actually published, which was today. 0 downloads. There's an error fetching down complete download data. So it makes sense, like downloads last month, there was nothing there. Has a placeholder readme, so it properly triggered that it said it was a placeholder. Doesn't have a license, and doesn't have a valid repository homepage specified. Okay, so it looks good. Okay. Yeah, so now our next one is going to be VibeSafe install express. Cool, and so it did it properly without doing anything. Didn't stop the install. Okay. Looks good to me. But I do see this issue of the OpenAI client initializing every time, which that's fine when we're doing the full VibeSafe scan, because you can throw the flag on there of adding -r, which will either generate a full markdown for you, or you can specify JSON, whatever file format you want for a full breakout of all your security vulnerabilities and how it would recommend you to fix it. But that's an optional thing, so I almost want to make that OpenAI client initialization be conditional on the flag. Let's see, test run looks perfect. Yep, no, I agree. Okay, so now we need to do our install command for our dummy package, but with the yes flag to see if we can just ignore all of our checks. Okay, no, so let's go ahead and hit Control C, clear this out, and start this back up. So now we're going to jump in here and we'll do our VibeSafe install VibeSafe dummy test with the yes flag. Oh, yes flag. So it still throws the errors, but it let it be downloaded. Okay, is that what we wanted? Okay. So let's just go ahead and run these, but it's gonna already have that. Okay, so I need to uninstall this. So let's first get this guy. Then we'll let the agent know. Can I get the uninstall? Yeah, and so we're gonna do the npm uninstall VibeSafe dummy test. Oh, I misspelled it. And this is why there's this real issue with just the typo squatting, which is the typical one of like not even hallucination, but just people naturally misspelling something or fat fingering something, which is my specialty, and downloading a malicious package. And so that's the hope that people would use VibeSafe install instead, and it would be able to just help you kind of catch that. Because once you let those packages in, man, they're in your computer. You got the herp. Uninstall VibeSafe dummy test. I missed it again? Wow. Uninstall VibeSafe dummy test. Goodness. Okay. Okay, let's see. So now I need to see if I can just do VibeSafe. VibeSafe dummy test express. Okay, so we don't have the I command, which I think that's an easy fix. Got it. Good job. And if I hit the Y, it lets it happen. Oh, but it didn't. So it took express in as an argument. Alright, so we got to add this in. Cool. So now we got the I alias in there. Uninstall. Man, I should have made this a shorter package name. flags. Oh, you wait. Are you sure it's not gets made? Okay.
We'll test for later. I don't want to end the live stream and everything just to test that part. What it'll do if there's no internet. If there's no internet, you shouldn't be downloading packages. Like, that would be the error on its own. Let's do that later. What do we need to do to handle multi-package statements?
data separator. I'm not in love with that, but you know, this is just v1, so and the client initialization is still there. Oh, but I haven't built the new package yet. It's 11 o'clock. That build is really thinking. Ooh. Ooh. Alright, y'all. I think that is good for version 1.3.1.
Alright, y'all. That is the magic. That's how it's happening tonight. Call it quits. Version 1.3 is out. Gonna edit this content. Gonna get a blog pushed. Gonna get some sleep. I don't know why you guys add this code to the end of it. Alright, man, I'm getting tired too. Alright, let's put a code in here real quick. 385. Okay. Okay, so we are all good. Let's pop up that tab. So now VibeSafe is updated to 1.3. Cool. Features, no features. Oh. Secure package installation. It's a huge section. They forgot to add it to. Okay. So. Slopsquatting, typo squatting, protection. Cool. Awesome. I'm gonna push this to get. I want to make sure that this is too. Oh. Let's do one more check real quick. VibeSafe scan. Test data. Okay, so then here's a little preview of how the rest of the app works. Basically all you have to do is VibeSafe scan, and it's going to go through and run systematically through your entire project. And it traverses through all your files that you have, detects whether you guys have front end frameworks or libraries and back end ones, looks for API routes, starts scanning to see if you guys have any high entropy strings, any kind of normal API code structures in any of your code other than in your environment variable files. Looks to see if you have API endpoints with uploads, make sure you have those structured, and that you have timeouts, that you have max file sizes, all the best practices to keep you from DDoS attacks, all the best practices to keep you from getting prompt injections, also script injections, right? Site script. Yeah, but that'll be in another video. We'll go deep through that. But the whole point here and what makes it super easy is you just run that scan file, and then in any of these IDEs, these AI IDEs, all you do is you have to highlight the errors that it finds, hit Command I to add it to your prompt, and then you just ask Cursor to fix it for you, and it's done. You don't have to do anything else. It's done for you. And that's what makes this super powerful and super easy. You get a nice cool little summary here of all the different errors that it found. And if you want to throw a flag on the scan for -R, it'll automatically generate a full report with suggestions on how to fix it and put it in a markdown file or a JSON file, whatever you prefer. And you can just have Windsurf, Cursor, Replit, Firebase, VO, all of them. You can just say like, hey, look at these errors, fix these errors, and it'll be fixed for you. Done. Easy. Don't need any kind of special cybersecurity degree or focus, and you can lock down your app and keep yourself safe. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.